hockey fans! Welcome back into the Neutral Zone on IE Sports Radio. Adam and Zach are back with you. We know last week was Realignment Week all across IE Sports Radio, and we had it all planned out to talk about, but then time got away from us, so we didn't want to miss out. We're going to do it tonight. We're going to take a deep dive, take a look at a couple of different maps that propose some not insignificant reshaping of the NHL landscape. It would look a little more familiar to another high-powered league in North American sports. Perhaps you've heard of it. So we'd make some comparisons there. And we'll look around and take some other news and notes from around the NHL world. What would we think about 8 divisions instead of 4? It would look different. Would it be cool? Might it work? Might we lose some rivalries that we otherwise had? Lots to go over, lots to discuss there. Adam and Zach taking you all the way through it. Buckle it on up. Let's light the lamp. We're going to do our best to stay out of the penalty box here for the next 55 minutes or so. This is the Neutral Zone. Let's go. And hello and good evening, everyone. I am Adam Karnick, one of the co-hosts here on the Neutral Zone. Zach Puplis will be along shortly. Thank you so much for joining in with us tonight. Gonna be having a bit more laid back, a little more fun of a show tonight. Not that, we ever get too terribly serious when we're doing this show, but it's the summer. Let's have a little bit of fun. Last week was Realignment Week all across IE Sports Radio. All the other shows were breaking down various redrawings of leagues and maps and teams, putting them in some different places. Well, we had some for the NHL as well. We were able to give it about a minute on our show due to some other stuff that was a little more pressing. So we decided we didn't want to miss out on the fun. So Zach and I are going to be diving in at a couple different maps tonight and looking at some possible reshaping of the NHL. But before we get into that, we have a new sponsor here at IE Sports Radio that we are very, very excited to tell you about. Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm. They are the single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on. And for a limited time, you can win 4 tickets to see the Storm, or, if you prefer, 4 bags of jerky. All you have to do is visit planetjerky.net, place your order, then follow them on Twitter at plantjerky, and then DM them that you bought your jerky from hearing this ad on this show, The Neutral Zone on IE Sports Radio. You will then be entered in the raffle that ends on Tuesday, August 1st. Once again, huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. And, of course, IE Sports Radio. For the last 9 years, we have continued to bring you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Be sure to follow IE Sports Radio on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at IE Sports Radio to keep up with the latest in sports and with our shows. Also, check out our daily updated website, iesportsradio.com, for sports news, the IE Sports Radio blog, our Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month, pages dedicated to each podcast, our IE Sports Radio community forum, and stop by the shop and check out all the new merchandise. Thank you for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And you can also follow Planet Jerky at Planet Jerky on Instagram. They post pictures of food. What else could you possibly want? And also, you can follow along with this show on Twitter. We are available at IESR Neutral Zone. Or you can follow along with Zach. He is at The Pupless. Or follow along with myself. I am at Adam_Karnick. And with no further ado, good evening, Zach. It sounds like you were finishing all your notes there. I hope I stalled for as long as humanly possible so you could get them all done.
Actually, I was prepping for the fantasy draft next month, but that works too.
All right. I'll take it. Absolutely. That actually puts you a leg up on me. I am way behind in that I have a lot of work to do.
I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, ooh, I could start my list and get the top 200 and all that other kind of stuff.
It's amazing how much we prep for that, for a league that, we do for bragging rights.
Well, I don't know. It's also, we're getting to that point in the summer and starting to look forward to it. And yeah,
I hear you. We're all getting the itch. We're all getting the itch for different things, but the show has barely started and we're already veering way off topic here. Somewhere Taryn's ears are ringing. I know it.
Right.
So let's steer ourselves back in, but we can stay with that. We can stay with that fantasy theme for a second. Realignment in the NHL. Now this particular realignment scheme comes from the website Game House, spelled Haus. I tweeted out a link to the map right before the show. So if you're listening live here on Spreaker tonight, or whenever you're listening, go over to our Twitter page, IESR Neutral Zone. We've got it there with the link for tonight's show so you can see the map. So this idea originally came out from Seattle entering the league and the league officially getting to 32 teams. And what they propose here is, instead of having 2 divisions in each conference, 4 total in the league, that you go to 4 divisions in each conference, 8 total divisions in the league. So twice the number of divisions that are all a little smaller. Instead of 8 teams being in a division, 4 teams being in a division. And they rename them. So we'll set the stage for you here. In the Eastern Conference, we have the Metropolitan Division, the Buffalo Sabres, the New Jersey Devils, the New York Islanders, and the New York Rangers. The new Atlantic Division would be the Boston Bruins, the Montreal Canadiens, the Ottawa Senators, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Then we have the Great Lakes Division. I'm already a fan. Featuring the Columbus Blue Jackets, your Detroit Red Wings, the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Finally, the 4th and final division in the Eastern Conference would be the Southeast Division. The Carolina Hurricanes, Florida Panthers, Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Washington Capitals. The Western Conference would then divide up this way. The Central Division would be the Chicago Blackhawks, Colorado Avalanche, Minnesota Wild, and the Winnipeg Jets. The Southwest Division, a new division, would feature the Arizona Coyotes, the Dallas Stars, the Nashville Predators and the St. Louis Blues. The Northwest Division would be the Calgary Flames, Edmonton Oilers, Seattle Kraken, and the Vancouver Canucks. And the Pacific Division would now be the Anaheim Ducks, the Los Angeles Kings, the San Jose Sharks, and the Las Vegas Golden Knights. So before we get any further, Zach, what are your thoughts of just redrawing the league, first of all?
I'm with you. I like the name of the Great Lakes Division. Though, like, I understand why Pittsburgh's in it. And I feel like you if you don't have Pittsburgh, or if you have Pittsburgh, you have to have Philly together. But then also, Philly also seems more like a metropolitan because it's right there by New Jersey, New York, and everything. So
I agree. It's a little weird to have a Great Lakes division and only 2 of the teams are actually touching a Great Lake.
Yeah, true. I mean, if you're going to do Great Lakes, I feel like you could pull Chicago into that. You could probably pull Minnesota into that. And then, Metropolitan, it makes sense to keep that name based off of where those teams are located. But Atlantic, if they're not strictly up and down the Atlantic coast, scrap the name. I would go with, if you're gonna have that division with Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, and Boston, just make it the Northeast Division. Like, you already got a Southeast Division. Why not make a Northeast Division?
Oh, let's just take it one further. Let's just call it the Nor'easter.
The Nor'easter.
The Nor'easter Division. With the Great Lakes, I would do it this way. If you're going to call it the Great Lakes, Detroit and Columbus, okay, that's fine. I got no problems there. How about that Buffalo and Toronto?
Oh,
they're on Great Lakes.
That's a good point.
We don't think of them as being Great Lake cities, but
they're like all right there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or like I was thinking, like include Chicago and Minnesota maybe, so you could do it Detroit, Columbus, Chicago, Minnesota.
I understand why they're not doing Chicago though, because of something else that we're going to talk about here when looking at this map. You're going to have Chicago. You got to have Chicago be in the Western Conference. If you sneak Chicago over into the East, there's just not enough teams left to fill out the West.
Oh, well, that's fair. Well, Detroit at one point was in the West.
They were, and they didn't like that they had to constantly fly out to California all the time.
Well, welcome to MSU and U of M's predicament starting next year.
Oh, God. Oh, my gosh. Don't. Larry, Zach said it. I didn't say it. That was Zach. That is a trigger subject for Larry, sir.
But when they do have to come here, my dad and I already agreed that we're going to go to those games.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah, go see UCLA and USC. Why not?
Oh, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see. So that's my thoughts on the East. On the West, I mean, you could change things up a little, but for the most part, it looks pretty good to me. Like you said, I think you're on the East. There's so many teams. They're all so clustered together, and then the West is conversely so far apart. What did we say? Arizona's closest one was like 500 miles away. I mean, like, I don't know what else you can do to try to get around that, but still.
Yeah, I want to pull up the actual mileage here for these guys as Larry B simply in the chat room just gives us a scowling emoji.
He says, sigh my head.
That is directed squarely at you, sir. I am going to get out of the way of the blast radius of that one. That is all you. That is
Bi-coastal conference.
Yeah, something like that. Let's
just get every big city, Chicago, New York, Washington, D.C. Oh, and L.A.
Oh, heck, let's just bring in Hawaii and Alaska while we're at it, too. Why not?
Why not? Yeah.
I mean, nobody lives in Alaska, so there's not money to be had there, I suppose. But
yeah, true.
But anyway, that's veering off into a totally different tangent, totally different subject.
But while you look up those mileages, I think we had kind of discussed this a little bit last week. There is a way you could reformat the California and the Pacific Coast. You could keep it as a Pacific Coast division and have it be like Seattle and Vancouver, and then let's see. So it'd only be 4 though. So
yeah, that's the thing is you got to have 4 teams in each of these. The way they're doing it anyway.
Well, but you can't have the Kings without the Ducks. But then where do you put the San Jose? Huh.
Yeah, that's kind of a California division there.
Yeah, well, I mean, and LA and Vegas are so close. That does make sense. Yeah, I don't really know any other way you could do it because unless you put 5 in there and then threw Vegas in with Arizona. Huh.
Yeah, that's something else that's kind of a big takeaway here from this is physically looking at this map, you really do get an appreciation for just how many of these teams are located on the East Coast. I mean, it's something Gary Bettman gets picked on all the time for forcing the Arizona Coyotes into the league and kind of forcing the westward expansion. But there's not a whole lot of teams out west. There's an entire, basically 2/3 of the United States that is ignored by the NHL, frankly, that they've just got so many teams packed together on the East Coast. I mean, you've effectively got 3 teams in the New York area. You've got the Rangers, the Islanders, and then the Devils are, New Jersey. That's right there.
Sure.
Boston is right there. Philadelphia is right there. Ottawa and Montreal are on top of each other.
They basically have the megalopolis along the East Coast.
Right, exactly. And the way it's especially apparent when you look at this map. I mean, the way he's drawing up the divisions, the Northeast especially is just jam packed. You've got 8, fully a quarter of the NHL is jam packed into the Northeast United States, into the southeast corner of Michigan and the northeastern corner of Ohio.
Yeah.
Just a small, to put it in perspective, Arizona's closest division rival in terms of miles with this division of the Coyotes, the Avalanche, the Stars, and the Predators, their closest division rival is Denver, Colorado, which is almost 800 miles away.
Oh, my gosh.
It is 1,600 miles from Phoenix to Nashville.
Ooh.
And they're division rivals. Meanwhile, let's just take a look at some of these more Eastern Conference setups for a second.
Look at the crosstown ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the crosstown ones. But Detroit, their furthest one is going to be Philadelphia. That's going to be the furthest one for that division. And I'm pulling it up here. And that's
over to that bizarro winged wheel.
Right. Yeah, the very strange winged wheel there in the Great Lakes division. That is just under 600 miles. So the entire division is traveling less than Arizona has to go to one divisional opponent.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And then in the what we're deciding to call the Northeast Division rather than the Atlantic Division, I mean, you're probably talking Toronto to Boston is probably going to be the farthest one there for mileage. It's a little hard to tell for that one because you go north a little bit or you go southeast a little bit. it's a little harder to tell some of the differences just looking at it. But Toronto to Boston, we'll call that the longest one for sake of argument. That is, and because it's Canada, my phone insisted on converting it to kilometers. I'm not making that conversion. 885 kilometers. Feel free to do the math. I'm not going to. I'm just going to trust you. It's an 8.5 hour car ride.
Yeah, there we go.
We'll go with it that way. The Southeast Division, that's going to be a little bit further because you are going from Washington, D.C. all the way down to Miami, effectively.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a little bit of a poke. Let's see. That's D.C. to Miami, Florida is, survey says, just over 1,000 miles. So that's got some distance to it. But still, Arizona's got 2 divisional opponents that it'd be doing that with. Dallas and Nashville going over 1,000 miles multiple times a season.
Oof.
But I don't know that there's an easy solution for that either. If you're going to, that's some of what they do anyway. Oh, and Taryn has joined us in the chat. Taryn, it's a good thing you joined in when you did. Zach got us started off on such an amazing tangent to start the show. So now that you're here, you'll help keep us focused. That is much appreciated. The first words he heard were West Coast, so that brought him right in.
Right.
So let's get into some of the nitty gritty. So now that they've re-divvied up the league, let's get into some of the nitty gritty of the way he's divided. I'll set this up and then we'll take a quick break. We'll set it up a little bit here. So each team would play its division opponents a total of 6 times. So 3 at your house, 3 at theirs. The other teams in your conference, you'd play them 4 times, twice at yours, twice at theirs. And then your non-conference opponents, you'd play twice, once at theirs, once at yours. So we'll set that up, and then we'll come back and discuss that. And then also, he changed the playoff format, and it's a way that, Zach, I think, if I remember right, it's a way that you like, and I know that it's a way that some of our other hosts here on IE Sports Radio like too. So we'll discuss that on the flip side of a break. You are listening to the Neutral Zone here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS. The SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Law.
And we're the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Hey there, sports fans. Are you looking for a sports show that maybe isn't 100% about sports?
Then you might want to check out the Sports Couple Perspectives right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Most sports shows cover only scores and stats, and while we're not opposed to that, we dig a little deeper into sports issues and some of the hottest topics in athletics.
In addition to sports, we take a journey through my neck of the woods, pop culture, with movie reviews of both sports and non-sports films.
Speaking of pop culture, make sure to participate in our game nights, where we quiz each other on our specialties, and you, the listeners, can win IE Sports Radio apparel.
We always have a great time learning more about each other's worlds, one show at a time.
So join us each week on the Sports Couple Perspectives, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Well, what is up, Carolina Nation? This is John Felipe of the Carolina Cast, of course, the podcast of, by, and for the Carolinas, right here on IE Sports, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm reminding you to tune in Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern for the latest in Carolina sports, whether it's the Panthers that keep on pounding, the fly natures of the Hornets, the storming Hurricanes, the battle of the Blues with Duke and UNC, the fight of the Clemson Tigers, or the amazing atmosphere of any Carolina college. I'm talking App State, I'm talking ECU. I've got you covered. Once again, tune in for the Carolina Cast with me, John Felipe, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always willing to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Welcome back into the Neutral Zone on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Sponsored by Planet Jerky, premium brisket beef jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. Find out more information at planetjerky.net.
All right, and talking realignment here on the Neutral Zone on IE Sports Radio. So we set up the realigned league in the last segment. Now we're looking at and diving into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty for how this would look. We're talking that you'd play everybody in Division 6 times. I like that. You play everybody else in your conference 4 times, and you play your non-conference opponents twice each. I like that you're continuing the tradition of playing everybody in the league every year. I like that the NHL does that. I like that MLB brought that in this year. I know that's not super popular in MLB circles. I love it in the NHL that as a fan every single year you will get to see any player from the NHL that you want, that they're going to be coming to your stadium at least once every year. You'll get to see them. I like that. Then the other thing that we've got going on, now this is a little more controversial, the playoffs. For this format, they suggest going back to the traditional playoff seeding of 1v8, 2v7, 3v6, etc. that they used to do, rather than the current divisional format where you take the top 3 teams of the division and then wild cards. I don't know how much I like that. It's certainly traditional in the sports sense. I kind of like the divisional format for playoffs that they have currently. I know that makes me an outlier. I know that makes me on the wrong side of the popularity contest, if you will. But I kind of like the divisional format for the playoffs. You have more intense rivalries in every round of the playoffs, whereas you don't know if you're going to be getting those or not in the 1v8 conference style. What do you think, Zach?
Oh, I guess I'm on the fence. Like, I could see it both ways with the 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, so on, like they do with the NBA. Well, at least, prior to them adding the play-in games. But I see where you're coming from too. I think you get better rivalries, better matchups, more intensity and better parity by doing the divisional setups.
Yeah, I know Cale Henderson, we're going to be hearing him coming up right after us, the host of Sin City Sports, hates the divisional format. Anytime I brought it up with him, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You're making it harder on the top seed to get it into the playoffs. You're not guaranteeing them the easiest route. I kind of remember when I first brought it up with my sister, though, and she's somewhat into sports, but when I brought up the conference format, she looked at me and, well, if they're the best team, why should they have an easy route? If they're the best team, shouldn't they be able to just beat anybody? Give them the hardest teams. You're not entirely wrong. You've got an argument there. I can't necessarily just automatically refute that.
Yeah. I think Boston would refute it this year.
Yeah, Boston would have an issue with it, but then you'd make the argument that maybe Boston just wasn't that good.
Yeah, I mean, it's
They
with their points this year, they were head and shoulders above everybody else, but they just they couldn't make it happen when it mattered.
Well, the old saying in sports: if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, and they couldn't do it. So there's an argument. There's a case to be made at the very least.
Yeah.
One thing I would think with this new format, your 1 through 4 seeds, those would have to be your division winners.
Oh yeah, that would make sense.
You're not going to wind up with the winner of the Pacific Division being the 8 seed.
Yeah, no.
You got to guarantee those teams make it into the playoffs and give them the top 4 seeds.
Well, that seems just like the NFL right there.
Yeah, very much so. But I would borrow that there. That look, your division winners, bam, they get in. They're your top 4 seeds. 5 through 8, I'm fine opening that up to the conference. Let it be. If you want an entire team, an entire division making the playoffs, that's fine with me. You get the division winners is 1 through 4, and then the other 3 teams, and let's say the Northwest Division get 5, 6, and 8, and then somebody from the Central Division winds up as 7. I'm fine with that.
Oh, so to not cap the wild cards essentially?
Yeah. Why cap the wild card? Why keep a good team out just because the division is strong?
Yeah, true.
Why, or on the converse side, why reward an inferior division just because their entire division is bad?
Or just because your 2 wild cards have to come from somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Why reward an inferior division just because?
Yeah.
Well, we can't have an entire division make it. Why not?
Right.
Why not? We're literally making up the rules as we go.
Right.
This is kind of fun having hockey deity-like powers. I kind of like it.
Wow.
Yes, excellent.
Call me Betzman the Great, or conversely, Batman the Terrible.
Oh, whoa.
I mean, at any draft, of course, the fans are going to boo the commissioner, but so it could work in that aspect, but also in Russian tyrant aspect,
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's exactly where my brain went. Yeah, that's exactly where I went. Was Ivan the Terrible?
Yeah,
that's exactly where I went with it. One thing that's interesting, looking at this map real quick before we transition out of this, I believe they did not have any teams change conferences. I do believe, looking at it, the teams that are currently in the West stay in the West in this lineup, and everybody that's in the East stays in the East in this lineup.
Sure. Yeah. At the very end, he talks about why he chose the specific groupings for these divisions. He says increasing the number of divisions would help the NHL in growth and revenue. New proposed divisions highlight rivalries by grouping them together. As rival teams play 6 times a season as opposed to 4 to 5 teams, or 4 to 5 times, games would be more intense and draw in more fans. Additionally, grouping teams based on locations and rivalries would help the team save money with the cost of traveling due to closer locations, except
for the Southwest Division.
Yeah. Altogether, this realignment would be a win-win for the NHL and fans by bringing in more attention with intense games and saving teams money, which is beneficial to the growth of the NHL.
Yeah, I think the Arizona Coyotes would dispute that travel aspect, having to travel 3,200 miles round trip 3 times a year to play a divisional opponent.
Don't worry. They won't be there for long.
I was going to say that segues perfectly into something else I know you wanted to talk about. Oh, the Arizona Coyotes. The poor Coyotes.
Right. Well, we had that great article from Greg Wyshynski weeks ago about where, if the Arizona Coyotes do move, where would be some good prime locations. So before we get into what his actual answers are, looking at this map, are there locations that don't have a franchise that we think might make this disparity between the East and the West any better? Like, would make for less travel if we move the Coyotes somewhere else? Such as Kansas City, or I'm thinking in my head of sports towns that don't have a hockey team yet. So Kansas City, New Orleans, Salt Lake City, Houston, etc.
Yeah, I'm looking at the map now, especially if you were going to go with this lineup, this setup of realigning the entire league,
sure,
getting them the heck out of Phoenix. You've got to. I mean, they're significantly close. Really, what would be fair would be to have them in a division with Vegas, Los Angeles, and Anaheim. That would be would be fair to do.
Oh, perfect, yeah.
And Larry brought it up in the chat that, please leave the Ducks and the Coyotes in the same division. That way the Ducks are guaranteed a few wins every year. Watch it, Larry. Kieran Daly might have something to say to you about that. Host of Arizona Daily every week here on IE Sports Radio. But if you're moving the Coyotes and sticking with this, I would say you want to keep them in the West. So as much as I'd love to have them in, this is the NHL. I guess New Orleans could be in the Western Conference. I mean, Nashville is. Why not?
Well, and in basketball, they're in the Western Conference.
This is true. So I guess New Orleans would still be on the table. Then Atlanta would be right out. No going to Atlanta and recreating the Thrashers. We don't
need a third.
Yeah, I was going to try that twice. Shane, fool me once.
Atlanta Flames, Atlanta Thrashers,
Atlanta Coyotes. No, just no.
Yeah, no.
We're not doing it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's way too many teams in the East to begin with.
Yeah,
they clustered way too close together. So, yeah, it would definitely be. You definitely have to move them somewhere in the West. My only exception is his Greg Wyshynski talking about, hey, it's hockey. There are more Canadian teams in the NHL than any other league. Baseball has one in Toronto, basketball has one in Toronto, so on. That's it. So why not put another team in Toronto being the epicenter of hockey? And I could not help but laugh my butt off at this. And he says, well, you've got the Leafs contingent. Well, this would have to be an anti-Leaf contingent then. So they'd have to be named something like the Rakes or the Leaf Blowers.
Right. Of course they would. Naturally they would.
Right.
Naturally. No, we're not doing the Toronto Leaf Blowers.
Dang it.
That would be the ECHL team, thank you.
Right.
They could be sponsored by Steel.
There we go.
Or whatever the Canadian equivalent would be, I guess.
But yeah, I mean, New Orleans could be in the Western Conference. Looking at this map, would be a perfect line between Colorado or between Denver and Dallas. Oklahoma City, maybe.
I was looking at Oklahoma, where the wind goes whistling down the plain. I was looking at that, and yeah, I don't hate that idea. I don't dislike it. I like the idea of Kansas City too. Honestly, I like that idea too. If for no other reason than just an excuse to go get barbecue.
Right.
The idea of Houston. I'm going to sound like a hypocrite because we talked about how they're trying to expand the league and all that stuff.
Sure.
Houston's hot as hell. I know Vegas just won the cup. I know Miami was just getting the cup final.
And Tampa Bay won 2 cups in the last 5 years.
Right. And we've got all the temperatures irrelevant. We're in the modern world. You can make it cold wherever you want to make it cold. You can make it hot wherever you want it hot. I get all of that. It just hockey in Houston. I just I just that instinctively makes me. What's even the right word that I want to use? Cringe. I just just instinctively cringe at that idea of hockey in Houston. You'd have to work a little harder to sell me on it. I'm not saying you couldn't, because I realize it's some old style hockey bias that's getting in the way there. But
no, I totally get you. Where's the hypocrite part come in though?
Well, because we were talking earlier about how Bettman is expanding the league, and look at what he's doing there. And I like that idea. Now I'm saying don't go to a new market.
Oh, well, sure.
Don't go to a new market. Why would you do that?
But no, I totally get where you're coming from. There's my friends are prime examples that like they're diehards and they are of the belief that, it's hockey. It should be played in Canada and the North. Tampa shouldn't have a team and Vegas shouldn't have a team. But you look at them like that's 3 of the last, 4 cup winners.
St. Paul, Minnesota is as far south as the NHL should get. Damn it.
Well, I mean, no, even Chicago, like Chicago fits, like, and even Colorado, I'd say, but maybe cut it off after that. Like,
well, it helps that Denver's in a gigantic mountain range,
Yeah, true.
There are other parts of Colorado that are quite hot.
Yeah, the Kraken and Avalanche matchup when it goes first announced for the playoffs, it was called the Sea to Summit series. I was like, that is so cool.
There you go. But yeah, where to put the Coyotes?
What got me thinking about New Orleans was it's SEC Media Days this week. I know we're getting off on a tangent, but Brian Kelly, formerly of Notre Dame, is now at LSU, and they were interviewing him, and the media days are in Nashville. So, of course, he had to get a Predators jersey. I promise. See, I promise I'm bringing this. Promise I'm bringing this full circle.
There we go. I'm with you.
That he's got a Predators jersey, and I got thinking, I'm like, well, if he's in South Bend, okay, you're, not far from where we are, and you're halfway between Chicago and Detroit, basically. So you could go either way. But and of course you'd have a new Notre Dame jersey for it, but I don't think LSU has a hockey team. And down there, who would be their pro team? Like, probably their closest one is, looking at this, either Nashville or one of the Florida teams, or if you go the other way, it could even be Dallas.
They do. There is a hockey team in Baton Rouge, the Baton Rouge Kingfish.
Oh, okay.
They are part of the ECHL.
Okay. But if he's going to go for an actual like NHL team, those are his options, unless New Orleans ever got one, and that got me thinking about it.
I don't dislike it. I don't dislike the idea. New Orleans is an outstanding city. So I have no problem with the NHL looking to expand into New Orleans, and it would fit. You've got Vegas, for crying out loud. New Orleans is in some ways Vegas light.
Yeah, true. Well, here you talked about Kansas City. Let's see what he said in the article. Pat Mahomes is on record as the Kansas City Coyotes has a nice ring to it.
Yep.
Problem is no local ownership is willing to acquire an NHL team. A relocation rather than a huge expansion fee would be the best path, likely. And wouldn't that rivalry with St. Louis be great? But that brings me to the question. So what exactly is the cost of relocation versus expansion? Like, is one a fraction of the other, and how big or small?
Oh, let's go to the Google machine, shall we?
Sure. Well, you do that here. Houston, there would be a possibility for if Arizona was to relocate. 4th most populous city in the U.S. Toyota Center is NHL ready. It's big enough, and it could, you could flip basketball to hockey pretty easily. Other arenas do the same thing. Houston Rockets owner Tillman Fertitta, who controls Toyota Center, said in 2017 that he'd put an NHL team here tomorrow if he could. ESPN's John Buccigross told ABC 13 in Houston he expects the city to have a team in the next decade. Houston's right there at the very top of the list. That would be a very creative, attractive place for the NHL. Plus, the league is trying to be more diverse and look more like America. So that's another secret sauce of Houston. It gives you that other flavor.
Let's see. I'm looking up here. The league will not leap to relocate the franchise, meaning the Coyotes. When doing so, might eliminate a potential expansion destination that could produce an entry fee. So an entry fee into the NHL would reportedly be between $750 million and $1 billion that would be shared amongst the owners. Whereas a relocation fee, let's see, Vegas came in 2017. The expansion fee was $500 million. When the Kraken came in, it was $650 million. So that's how you're getting that number of about $750. $1 billion seems high.
Yeah.
But $750 million, that's not necessarily out of the question.
That seems in line with what you just said. That it would go up because of inflation or whatever.
This article, which is from AZ Central, Jeremy Clough is the reporter there. I'm not seeing anything of saying what the relocation fees would be, but I think the point that they're kind of making there is that if you move an existing franchise out of one market and into a new market, you're effectively taking a new market out of the equation for an expansion team, which means you're denying yourselves the opportunity to collect $750 million.
Yeah, opportunity cost, yeah.
Yeah. So that could ultimately lead to the Coyotes staying put. I do like the idea of Kansas City, though.
Yeah.
I do like that idea. Another team in the Midwest makes for a better rivalry. Obviously, the Blues would be a very natural rival there. Chicago would make an easy, natural rival there.
Yeah.
Heck, even Nashville.
It almost becomes more of like the AL Central kind of.
Yeah. You get a little bit of that flavor in there. It does, unfortunately, kind of isolate the West Coast teams. I mean, it's like you're basically jettisoning the entire Great Plains section of the country, unfortunately. You know, you'd have Denver, and that would be it.
Oh, yeah, true. I see what you mean.
Vegas, I guess.
Gosh,
Well, Vegas is Pacific Coast.
No, Vegas is. Yeah, they're still clustered in with the West Coast. So
yeah, they're still on Pacific time. So yeah, Denver would be, I think, your one Mountain Time team.
Yeah, instead of St. Louis being the gateway to the West, it now becomes Colorado and Denver being the gateway to the West.
Yeah.
Two real quick ones here. He mentions Salt Lake City as well. Utah Jazz owner Ryan Smith told a fan on Twitter recently that the plans to bring an NHL team to Salt Lake City were, quote, in motion, and he's already met with Gary Bettman. Real appeal for the NHL in Salt Lake City is what comes next. The city is bidding on the 2030 and 2034 Winter Olympics, and with that could come a new arena. Delta Center, home to the Jazz, was built in 1991. The other big possibility here would be Hartford, return of the Whalers.
Yeah, but that's an East Coast team then.
Well, yeah, true, but he had some good points. This is before we were talking about just West Coast. He would need a new arena, but the Hartford mayor and Connecticut governor are open to the idea. But like we said, the area is saturated with teams. There's 3 in New York City plus 1 in Boston. The Whalers 2.0 would be like second tier, basically.
Second tier. Heck, they might even be third tier.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, Hartford, I get it. The Whalers were a fantastic historical franchise, possibly the greatest logo in sports. I get it. No. I'm a hard pass on Hartford, but Salt Lake City could be interesting.
Nowadays, I don't think Hartford's big enough is my issue.
Yeah.
You look at all the other franchises, they're in big cities. Hartford's not a big city.
Yeah. That's an issue with it too. Well, we have to sound the horn. It is that time, as our own Larry B likes to say, to get on out of here. Thank you to our very new sponsors, Planet Jerky. Be sure to check them out, planetjerky.net. Remember to place your order on the website, then follow them on Twitter at Plant Jerky. Then message them, let them know that we sent you. The Neutral Zone here on IE Sports Radio. We sent you there to place your order. You get entered into their contest. So thank you to Planet Jerky. Thank you to Larry B. All the hard work that he does behind the scenes here at IE Sports Radio. It definitely goes noticed, and it definitely is appreciated. Thank you also to Taryn Rodriguez for hanging out in the chat room with us tonight and keeping us as on the rails as possible. That, sir, is a full-time commitment. Coming up next here on IE Sports Radio, it is Cale Henderson and Sin City Sports talking all things Las Vegas. Finally, thank you for coming and listening to this show every week, whether it's live here on Spreaker or you're catching us later on in the week, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, or Google Podcasts, YouTube, however it is, iHeartRadio, however you're listening to us, we really, really appreciate it. For IE Sports Radio, he is Zach Puplis. I am Adam Karnick. Together, we are the Neutral Zone. Have a great week, everybody. Hope that you are staying safe, staying healthy, enjoying the wonderful weather this summer wherever you might be. Until next time, light the lamp, check somebody else into the boards, stay out of the penalty box, and be sure to protect your 5-hole. We'll see you next time, everybody.